Welcome to the video, guys. I came across this salty, and I do mean salty, independent article earlier that had me in stitches, not only for the stupidity of it and its blatant lies, but for the entitled way this woman makes her ideologically driven claims. It is absolutely filled to the brim with intersectional nonsense and hardcore Brexit derangement syndrome that the last 4 years would be proud of. As you know, I love hearing all these butthurt Ramonas in absolute shit fits screaming about how they want to leave or could leave, yet none of them ever do it. I mean, them leaving is not really a bad thing. It's not like they need to worry if they ever wanted to get back to the UK. They can join the boat wankers floating across the channel every day now. I'm sure there is plenty of space going on their many boats. But I laughed so hard at the salt and stupidity of this article when I glanced at it earlier, I had to share it with you guys. It headlines, "What do you do when, as much as you loathe the idea as Brexit, you happen to love this grey and rainy little island?" Alright, we're not going to bother reading this bit. She's just fronting the story up. She's trying to make it into a little narrative. Since the Brexit referendum a mere 4 years ago, though it feels like 400, migration to EU countries has increased by 30%, according to a joint research project between the Oxford in Berlin Partnership and the WZB Social Sciences Centre, Berlin, which I actually see this article which she is talking about the other day. And when reading past the headline, you actually find out that it's a load of nonsense, because up until recently, they wasn't even taking figures for how many people migrated to many of these European countries from the UK, because obviously we was in the EU. So there is absolutely no way they can claim 30%, because at the end of the day, if it is zero, a 30% rise on zero would still be zero, you complete and utter idiot. Anecdotally, this doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Zoom chats and socially distanced meet-up with friends these days are often punctuated with talks of the lure of emigration to one of those lovely forward-thinking countries, ideally with a female leader and a corona death rate closer to the hundreds than the hundreds of thousands. Which, of course, there it is, the intersectional bullshit we all knew was going to come from this article is there, as you can see. A female leader like that is going to make any difference. But not only that, she goes on to big up a female leader that is actually a complete and utter shit show, as we all know too well. As a still devastated Remainer, I can't blame anyone grappling with the question of whether to stay or go from the UK that feels far more like a foreign country than it ever did before. Well, you might not be wrong there, but if that's really what you feel, then why don't you go? No one is forcing you to be here. Let's be honest, we all know you have the means to do it when many other people do not. Of course, we all know you're just talking a load of shit. You ain't going nowhere and never plan to do it. It's too easy for you to live in this country and do what you're doing now with the privileges that you have. Since the shock of that referendum, things have gone from bad to worse. Well, you're not wrong there, but likely for different reasons than what you think. So much so that I look back on the knife edge, glimmer of hope Parliament of 2019 with a sort of nostalgic fondness compared to the gun-ho behemoth of 2020's Tory majority version. So obviously she likes the Ramona Parliament of 2017 to 2019 that was trying to end Brexit. That surprises absolutely no one. I expect her idols are people like Dominic Grieve and John Burcuck, you know, the idiot whose wife was getting belt-fed pork sword by his cousin. It's terrifying to think that we might be on the cusp of a Brexit that turns out to be every bit as hard and chaotic as our worst fears, and that more generally we face an age of racism and unchecked capitalism and a moral compass where due north points towards the right-wing press. So there it is, her Marxist bullshit, and of course claiming everything is racist because race baiting is life for these unbelievable fuck pigs. What do you do when you love country pubs and carefully tended front gardens and tea, and most especially the ridiculous technicolor lushness of the countryside? Well, you can actually get all of that somewhere else. They have country pubs in other countries. You don't have to be here if you hate Brexit so much. My guess is, like with most of this article, you're just talking a bunch of shit. You couldn't give a shit about that. You're probably from London and never been to a country pub in your life. I'd be highly surprised if you've been outside of the M25. As much as I hate the idea that the UK is shrinking inside some 1950s wrapper of nostalgia and misplaced superiority, I do love it here. I doubt that very much. Except for, of course, for the privileges that you hold here, which you likely wouldn't have in another country, which is why you are still here, moaning and bitching like a salty fucker. Realistically, what you do when you feel the way that I do is, you stay. And whilst I really can't judge anyone for leaving, here's why I hope at least some of the people contemplating departures for foreign climes decided to stay too. Not you, Tommy, feel free to go for good. Of course, Tommy derangement syndrome has to be in there as well. What a fucking idiot this woman is. She is dead set against absolutely anyone who disagrees with her ideology, regardless of who they are. Tommy is just another name to drop in there to make herself sound good to her woke little fuck pigs. Right, here she talks about her means and the ability to leave and people below deck, and that it's a privilege being able to leave often goes hand in hand with knowing we are also protected enough to stay, which obviously she is. So she has some level of self-awareness, it would seem. Though she still makes herself look like a complete and utter cunt during this article. There is also an element of self-fulfilling prophecy to talk of brain drains and arguments that say the UK has become irredeemably small-minded and self-harming. Well, it has, because we have left-wing fuckpigs like you running around screaming about how terrible this place is. And we also have governments that are weak as piss water and don't do what the people of this country want and just allow other countries' citizens to trample all over us. This only becomes conclusively the case when all the people who are open-minded leave, obviously talking about herself, who she claims is open-minded when really she's just a regressive tosspot. And it's at this point that applies to my feelings about Scottish independence too. I can't blame Scotland, with its socialist policies and sensible leader, for wanting to break away at the same time. I'm hanging onto its leg as it heads for the door, promising to do better if only it will give the rest of the country a second chance. Which is just fucking laughable. Sensible leader, she's a complete and utter scumbag who is fucking around the people of Scotland, practically locking them in their homes whenever she wants, as has happened in Aberdeen, and of course passing laws that will limit their ability to say absolutely anything or even have a meme on their phone. Of course, we all know the socialist policies is what she really cares about, as we saw earlier by her comments on capitalism. She's just talking a load of bollocks, quoting May there, which you know makes her a bit of a scumbag. Please don't leave me here with only Nigel Farage, Tim Martin and Dominic Cummings for company in the meantime. Which, there it is, absolutely everyone derangement syndrome. She is against everything that pisses all over her bullshit ideology. Well, I would have to say, 4 years on and a little late to the party in order of moaning about Brexit, she is still here telling everyone to hold her beer as she comes out with this complete and utter nonsense that we have just witnessed there. I think the only person more salty than this trout over the past couple of weeks has to be Jeremy Corbyn, when his nominations for peerages all got rejected, as I covered at the time. The salt coming from her is on par with Dead Sea salt levels, I think you would all agree. Now, before I end the video guys, remember the daily live stream has moved over to Twitch, so if you want to join me over there to chat in real time, the link will be down in the video description, along with the channel's other social media links. But now, I'm off because it's fucking hot.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.